Hello and welcome to the Five Stones podcast. I'm Raymond Modglin. I am actually in the basement of my secluded island retreat today. And I, gentlemen, am back to the New World cigar. How are you guys?
Delightful. I'm in the soundproof studio, which contains my overwhelming voice and things like that keep me toned down in here. Smoking a La Flor Dominican.
Well, and I'm Joe Terrester, and I'm sitting in the Cigar Club of Indiana once again, and I'm smoking a Padron, and a free Padron, no less. So it's a win-win.
The only thing better than a Padron is a free Padron.
Mm-hmm.
Excellent choice.
I need to hang out with your friends more often that are giving you Padrones.
Yes, you do.
So today, I don't know what you guys had in store, but what I had thought about was dealing with or talking about this issue that Joe and I deal with a lot is buying a company versus starting up a company. And mainly when I'm talking about buying a company, the franchise model. I'm dealing with a business broker out of Colorado who has pitched a franchise to me, and I immediately told him no, that I was not interested. I have owned franchises before, and he immediately replied, text message back to me and goes, "Are you sure? Are you serious?" I think is what he said. I said, "Yes, I didn't accidentally type 'I'm not interested' on my email and send it to you. You know, I am serious." So the franchise model, what do you guys think, or what's your point of views?
I think some are still viable, but in most cases, I think it's less interesting than it used to be. In this case, I think. Did you ask them what they bring to the table? I know we talked about it, but for the gigantic fee, national marketing. Well, you're in Central Indiana. Do you need that for that particular franchise?
Yeah, that's the point. I'd be curious, Joe. What's your thought on the franchise?
Well, I will tell you that the most I've been around a franchise model is back when I was in the flooring industry, and the guy that owned the store that I worked for was actually part of a buying group. It was a franchise, but it was, everything was individually owned. They had their own autonomy, but the franchise allowed them to all combine their power to buy products and split it up and distribute it amongst everyone within that group, so they could buy more things at a better rate. So in that sense, it was helpful, but it's a little different than most.
Yeah. The buying group is a common scenario for independent companies that maybe can't compete against a national brand. So a lot of independent companies will form buying groups so that they can buy 1 million square feet of carpet at a time, and then, like I said, disperse it. Now, I owned a Century 21 franchise in the early 2000s, so I've had a lot of experience. And the price on this one, Colin, just for the ability to use their name, was a $200,000 franchise price. Colin is really shocked.
He is so shocked that he has disappeared.
That really.
Colin will come back and join us.
Talk about sticker shock.
Yeah.
So we'll hold on. Maybe he'll join us here in a minute again. But in this particular case, as Colin mentioned, I asked the guy, I said, "Okay, so for this franchise fee, what am I getting?" And he could not provide anything that was substantive enough to warrant $200,000. You and I have had this discussion many, many times. At what point do you say, well, for that price, I can buy a shit ton of Google AdWords to get national branding or national marketing? But the second point, like Colin had mentioned before he so abruptly left us today, was that this business was an HVAC company, would not be doing national business. You know, it's more of a local surround in this 25 to 50, maybe 60-mile radius of the physical brick and mortar store. So how much benefit would quote unquote national marketing bring you?
Well, in this scenario, I don't think it does. But I mean, it just depends on the scenario. Like everything that you and I deal with, and welcome back, Colin. The things that we deal with, I mean, we're putting a school in multiple jurisdictions in multiple states. So sometimes, it depending on what we're trying to do, depending on the jurisdiction, it is easier for us to get into the market through acquisition than it is through other routes.
Yeah.
It isn't always better, as we found out. I mean, we made an acquisition late summer, early fall last year, and there are positives to that acquisition, but there's also the negatives of it's not set up the way that you would set it up.
Yeah.
And there is no organic growth to it. It's you push play and you're dealing with whatever problems are existing from day one. And it makes it difficult sometimes to take those, mold it, and put it into where you need to. I mean, I think right now, roughly 6 months later, we're just now starting to really get a grasp and get things under control the way we want to. But the trade-off to that is we were immediately live in those states, making money to learn as we go, as opposed to learning as we go, trying to make money.
Yeah. So in that scenario, you're talking about the main conversation that you and I have all the time is acquisition versus startup. In that acquisition is that independent versus franchise. And that's, so there's kind of two conversations here. Yes. I'm a big fan of startup at a certain price point. And I think the three of us, we looked at a business together, the three of us. And I remember in that meeting, we actually came up with a number. We said, if he sells below this number, it's better to probably acquire him because of all of the benefits. Like you said, Joe, he was already up and running and we already had a presence. However, if it was above the number, we were like, for that amount of money, we could compete against him in the form of Google ads and things like that. Now, in that was national. It was a national play that we needed, exposure in Washington and Texas and all of that. In this one with this business broker, as Colin brought up, it is just a local play. I'm not going to take HVAC clients in Iowa sitting here in Indiana.
Well, and then the other aspect to that is for that same $200,000, you can probably do the paperwork, open, and do things for a quarter of that. And if you can take the other 3/4 and put that into local marketing, you're going to have more money on that return than you are giving them $200,000 for national, because you don't need to be national. You need to be local.
Right, Colin?
Yeah, I was going to share a story. My brother flew into town and we were talking last night. He just went through building a business, which is a franchise. He bought access to build a franchise, but he ultimately had to build the business from scratch. And it was a kind of a franchise that has a presence in some other states, but not where he lives in Texas. So he really had to start from scratch, pick a location, get them to approve it, go through all their hoops. Now they provide, here's access to the machine buying discounts, and here's the supplies for what you're going to make, the coffee and all that stuff. But he had to build that business from scratch. And he's just now in about year 5 from starting to process, turning a profit. And he said next time he will just buy an existing business. If he can do 3 times net income or something, buy into a business that already has clients, already has cash flow, already has everything in place. He feels like he would be getting a discount on the effort and a discount on the price that he's getting in. So it just depends. I think each situation is different.
Maybe it would have been kind of nice to get him on here, although I suspect he may not want to badmouth a current franchisor. If that were the case, I mean, he might be happy, but whereas like right now with Century 21, I don't care. They're not going to do anything to me because I'm not a current franchisee.
I don't think there's
Well,
ill
what's the
feelings. I think he just realizes maybe his decision was it was an uninformed decision. He was starting and didn't know better, and he needed a model to guide him through how to do things. But now he knows how to do it, and he thinks differently. So
Yeah.
I think it's just something that was an evolution of the business owner over going through the experience that now it's changed his perspective. He won't build another one from scratch like that. He'll just swoop in, buy one, rebrand it, put a sign up, or do it a different way.
Well, and to an extent, I mean, Raymond, that's why you feel the way that you feel about franchises. You bought into one because you were starting into things and starting out on your own, and then you realized, wait a minute, I can do this and I can do it better, and I don't need this, and I don't need the exposure and the money going out. So bye-bye. I mean, I think a lot of times that happens with people. They get in with a franchise, realize, okay, they're not really giving me what I really need to justify this amount of money, and then they go out on their own.
Or not really giving you what they said they were going to give you. That was my biggest problem. 7 years as a Century 21, not once were they ever in my office giving guidance. You either had to call them and wait for the return call. They provided terrible support. They did provide, like Colin was saying, a lot of access to printer companies. At this time, remember, early 2000, we were still printing flyers and stuff like that gave you a discount. But other than that, I mean, they didn't provide the printing. They provided the access to a printer where, oh, you got a discount because you're a C21. I don't think I ever saved enough money on that discount to cover the cost of the franchise. That's for sure.
Well, that was back when everyone thought that you saw a specific sign in the yard, and that's why people, oh, I don't want to buy that house down the street. It doesn't have a Century 21 sign in the yard.
Yeah, that's
exclusive to Ricky Homes
huge,
with those signs.
Huge misconception in this business that brand really does not have much of a advantage. It's not like a McDonald's or a Starbucks brand. The agent is the brand. And if you have great agents in an independent firm, like I do now, you can do as much or more than mediocre agents in a big brand name.
Well, you're going to do more than mediocre in a big brand name because you're paying for the big brand name.
Yeah. That's the other part about a franchise. And I'd be curious, Colin, to talk to your brother, is not only is there just that upfront cost, usually there's an ongoing fee. And with us, we had to pay 6% franchise to the home office on every deal we did. Plus, there was like a monthly technology fee to have access to the software they had, all of that. So there was a lot of, and I'm going to use the word hidden costs that were involved. And if you're out there thinking about a franchise, you better look at that and ask that question, because it's not just the upfront fee. There's always ongoing maintenance of some sort.
Another factor in his story is that he has not been able to increase his prices for 2.5 years. And there's permissions that have to be, you have to get permission to do things, which you as the business owner, he's in downtown Austin, Texas, and perhaps the cost of getting things is different to him than someone that's next door to the factory. Yeah. So he has a need to raise his prices, and his labor costs are $2 to $4 an hour more than most of the rest of the country as well. He's in downtown Austin. So he's got other permission problems, with the franchise. He's got to ask permission. He just can't do things.
Well, and then in 6 months, when they decide to re-image everything for the franchise, we're going to go with a new logo and all of this, and now you all have to buy this new sign and put it up, and you have X amount of time to do that. But we'll give you a 7% discount because you're going to buy it over here.
We had that issues with signs. And Century 21 just recently rebranded with a logo about 4 or 5 years ago. I was not involved in it, but I do know their business model. Like you said, all those signs that every agent had were now obsolete and required to be removed and replaced with. So that's another good thing.
And they weren't giving them to him.
You, quote unquote, own the franchise. You don't own the rights to do what you want. Like Colin said, I can't raise my prices because cost of labor in Austin's way more than the cost of labor in like Iowa.
Well, and then the other thing I would be curious about, talking to your brother would be, I just get the sense that they're not coming there because of the brand name. They're coming there because of the people that are working there, your brother, other scenarios. They're coming in there to see him and them. They're not coming in there because of the name over the top.
Yeah, well, he's obviously he's in the coffee business. He's competing with Starbucks and those kind of places. So he's set up shop near the Capitol, Sweetwater's Coffee in the Austin downtown at the Capitol building. But he's got a different setup. He's got like local artists come in and display their art for sale, and he does some other things. So it's kind of a nouveau place, industrial, modern industrial looking place to hang out. It's just a different vibe. Yeah. So he's offering an alternative to his competitors.
So in that scenario, that is a definite location based. He probably could have succeeded without the franchise name simply because, like you said, he's next to the Capitol building, which would allow him, all those people going into work or leaving work or lunchtime. And like Joe's saying, they probably don't care that it's not a Starbucks or it's not a McDonald's. It's close and they can do it quickly.
We can walk across the street and get a good coffee at this place.
Yeah.
Well, and the other thing to keep in mind for everyone that goes to Starbucks because it's Starbucks, there's another person that won't go to Starbucks because it's Starbucks.
Because it's Starbucks. Yeah.
That's why CVS and Walgreens are on corners that compete. I don't want to go to CVS because it's CVS, and I don't want to go to Walgreens because it's Walgreens. So
he is more, and I'll tell you that I was with him throughout the whole thought process, and we had a lot of discussions. He is not a risk-taking entrepreneurial person at the level of some people, and he did not want to have to figure all those things out. So part of the attraction was, here's our model, here's all the stuff you're going to need, here's where you're going to get your supplies. You just have to find the location, spend the money, build it out. So he was ready with the money, and he knew he wanted to have this location, but he didn't know the other pieces of the business. So he didn't want to have to go learn all that. He just wanted to. So it was kind of a hybrid of a plug and play and a startup, because he kind of had to build it up from nothing. But they had a playbook, and that was what he wanted, that he was willing to pay for at the time.
Yeah. So that's a good point, because you just said a couple minutes ago, if he were doing that again, he would not buy the franchise, because now he already has the playbook through 5 years of experience.
Yeah.
So maybe that's a good idea for people that are entering into a business like your brother that said, hey, I've got the money, I've got the desire, I just don't quite have all the knowledge. And McDonald's comes in and goes, well, here's the playbook, here's where you buy, here's do all that. And then after that, they're like, oh, I don't really need that anymore. So
yeah, I don't think a franchise is necessarily a bad thing all the time. It just situationally might be right for the person, might be right for the place. If I was going to start a chicken place, I'd want Chick-fil-A's name on the door, because you pay them millions of dollars, but they're going to put 80 people a minute in line at your store, because they know what you're going to be serving them.
Well, I think each franchise also serves a different purpose. Good examples, like you're saying, we all know that McDonald's does not provide the best tasting hamburger, but they provide a system that allows a person to go in, eat, and be out in 20, 25 minutes. So speed is kind of one of their things, where Chick-fil-A is going with some other issue of, hey, it's a good tasting chicken sandwich. I think Chipotle, their whole business model, isn't it fresh taste? It's not a quote unquote fast food like Taco Bell.
Yeah, they don't freeze anything. Everything's fresh.
Yeah. So I
Yeah,
apologize to Chipotle if I got that wrong, but I think it's like
Oh.
Fresh Taste or Fresh Food or
First Watch, those brunch and lunch places, they don't have a freezer in the facility. Everything is freshly delivered daily and cooked daily, and whatever isn't cooked is gone. And they start over. They just won't freeze anything.
that's
So that's their push.
unlike perhaps maybe the Waffle House, where again it is a speed issue and not necessarily the best food available.
Not quality.
Yeah.
it's hard to mess up eggs and waffles.
So I guess there could be a play, and I will rescind my extreme distaste for franchises. For some people, like Colin was saying, his brother or somebody starting out, that a franchise might have a benefit. Maybe I'm in my entrepreneurship career further enough along that I don't feel the need for them.
Well, I don't think we are in a field where it screams, gee, I need a franchise. Maybe if we were looking into restaurants and we're doing restaurants and different things, it would make more sense.
It's funny. We are actually in a field where the franchisors are actually paying
Yes.
people to take a franchise. I mean, I know a gentleman that took a big name real estate company where they actually paid him to become a franchise of their name. Unlike this guy is wanting 200 grand for me just to use their name.
But
Will they offer a negative value?
well,
Is what they're saying there.
but they're not. I mean, what they're tricking you. Oh, yes, we'll pay you, and then you join, and then you pay them all of these fees for the next 3 years, and they make back all of that money they gave you plus a bunch more. So I mean, they're not going to give you anything. Right. They give you the perception of something.
It's very similar to what I believe this is. This next evolution is going to be, unfortunately, they could give these phones to us because the money is not in this phone. The money is in the monthly contract that you pay for the next rest of your life. And theoretically, that's what these real estate big box brokerages are seeing, like Joe said. I'll give you the ability to use my name. And now for the next 7 to 10 years, which is usually the franchise contract, you're going to pay me 6% of everything that you do. And that's where my money's coming. That name is almost a loss leader in some of these. And I know several in the real estate business that are paying, that are not charging, which makes me mad because I paid 5 digits to get the name Century 21 to be able to use it.
Our business uses something similar. It's a signing bonus type of thing. So we'll come over and we'll give you this, and then typically it's repaid out of your commissions on a pace over 12 or months or something like that. So really, they're paying you a bonus with your own future earnings.
Which you probably would have done anyway, right?
Yes. I mean, that's the trick. So
your business is very similar to our business in the fact that people who use Colin, they don't really care much what the name is. The brand is you. The brand is Lindsay. The brand is, the other agent. Like Joe was saying, I don't know one buyer in the history of the world that has ever said, I really love that house, but it's not listed with Century 21, and therefore I'm not going to buy it.
When you first started in the business, did people choose a real estate company based on them having the most listings that you could look at before Zillow was there and that, or how did they pick?
I know of one, and Joe, I'll let you talk. I know of one client that literally came in the office and said, I used you when I sold my house in Michigan, and I want to use you to sell my house here in Indiana. Now, obviously, being a franchise model, it was not me, but she did see the name Century 21 as being one person. Mm-hmm. So I do know that has been one seller that has come to us simply because of the name. Now, there may have been more, but I just know of one that literally told us that.
Now, I will say this. I do think early on, let's say 40 years ago, having a franchise like that may have been beneficial because you didn't have at your fingertips the ability to market, the ability to, go to Vistaprint and then a week later have all the signs delivered to your front porch and have a computer at your fingertips where you could design all of that. So you probably did need to have a hierarchy that could produce that and make that happen for you.
Yeah.
Since we are no longer like in Cro-Magnon times and we can do things for ourselves. I mean, we got kids that are growing up, basically coming out of the womb holding an iPad, that designing all of this stuff and doing all of that is as simple to them as it is for us lighting a cigar. So they don't need all of that extra crap for them. They can do it themselves and they're not going to pay for it. And that's why the model is dying.
Before we run out of time, let's just for 1 minute flip the script over to recruiting, because I have had 3 or 4 LOs come to me saying that they have heard things about Five Stones Mortgage or want to come talk to us about working for us because of the brand name or something they've heard about us. And that thing that's out there on the recruiting side. But ultimately, what individuals in our industry demand is training and mentoring. The other things really don't matter that much. You can learn a software, you can learn programming, but the training and mentoring is a big deal right now in the industry for people entering or looking for a new place to work. So that's the question I'm getting recently.
If you want to tie the two together, they go together pretty well. I mean, if you are struggling in school and you need to learn something in better detail, you get a tutor. You become more one-on-one. The mothership isn't what's helping you. You need someone that takes the time and works with you. Same scenario here if we want to talk about a franchise or a larger mortgage firm compared to yours. You have the ability to be one-on-one with people and teach them. Mothership is never going to produce that. So that's why your name and your company name and everything else is becoming more prevalent, because they're getting to work with Colin. They're not getting to work with some company that has someone sitting in an office in California who has 10 people underneath them, and then there's 20 people under those guys, and it filters all the way down, and by the time they get to you, there's no one that can talk to you. That is the incentive, and there again, that's another reason not to have a franchise. You're too far away from anyone that does anything.
That's a good point.
Yep.
So, gentlemen, I thank you for your insights. I think we've reached our time frame. I would invite everybody out there to press the like button, press the subscribe button, and get notified, and click the little bell so that we put stuff out on a weekly basis. And Joe, you got your hand raised.
Yeah, there's one other thing I wanted to say. I'm noticing, and I appreciate everyone starting to leave comments on our YouTube page. Please continue to do it. And I also would love to genuinely, if you have a question, if you disagree with something, please reach out. We would love to have you on the podcast. And you can do it from anywhere. You don't have to come here. We don't have to go anywhere. You can do it from home. We would love to talk to you and have a spirited debate if you disagree. Or if you do agree, we'd love to have someone, another voice that agrees with reason. However you'd like to approach it, we'd love to hear from you.
We have had some interesting comments in the past month or so, accusing us from everything from being the devil incarnate to, the best thing since sliced bread. So I parrot Joe's comments. Come on, let's talk.
Bring it on, man.
What's that Charlie Kirk's always saying? Prove me wrong. Come on and let's talk, and we can do that. So, guys, I want to thank you and enjoy the rest of your day. Folks out there, thank you very much, and we'll see you later. Bye.
Harumph.